Okay, team, welcome back. Welcome to Walks on Wall Street. It is February 14th, 2023. Guys, it's Tuesday. It's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody who celebrates. I think it's only an American thing. I'm not sure. Now, the vast majority of our audience is from the United States of America, but I think we have about 10% Canadian and then a lot of Italian and Brazilian members as well. Anyway, guys, today's a big important day on Wall Street. Very volatile day on Wall Street too. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, the NASDAQ, and the S&P 500 was green, back to red, back to flat, back to green, back to red, back to flat. But the NASDAQ actually ended the day in the green, finishing at 11,960. The S&P 500 was flat, 4,436, and then the Dow 30, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, finished also about down to flat at 34,089. So why was it such a volatile day? Well, I'll tell you why. It was inflation day. It was the CPI day. And we're going to talk about the CPI report, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. Okay? Now, I want to keep everybody aware. I probably read about 6 or 7 articles on the physical CPI report. And I'll tell you the reason why I did that is because depending on which media outlet you read the article, and I think I posted this to my Twitter, they have a bias or a spin based upon the news organization it was. So I was reading some CNBC business articles, I was reading some Fox business articles, Wall Street Journal, Reuters, Financial Times, and depending on the publication, you could have a headline that said, hey, CPI is cooling in the United States, or hey, CPI is reaccelerating, this is bad news. But we're all looking at the same data. You know, why are we drawing different conclusions if we're looking at the same data? So what we're going to try to do tonight, everybody, on Walks on Wall Street is look at this objectively. We're going to put away the political bias, we're going to put away all the narratives, all the spin, and get right down to the data. Okay, so if you want to follow along tonight, all right, if you type CPI in the chat, I actually programmed the Nightbot to drop the actual link to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website where you can look at the unedited report. Okay, we're going to look at the data. This is what we do as financial professionals, as analysts on Wall Street. We look at the data and we try to come to conclusions. I would like to note that this month for the January CPI, it's actually been updated. Okay, so the new calculation is going to put a little bit more weighting on housing and shelter and a little bit less weighting on used cars. Now, equivalent ownership rent is going to account for about 25% of that calculation. I actually think it's about 26.5%. But overall housing, which is shelter costs, is going to account for about 44% of CPI. So we're going to talk about that calculation. We may even do some Excel spreadsheet work if we're really feeling up for it. But I think the last thing I'll say, team, before we get the live stream started, and I say hello to all of the viewers in the chat, is that you guys already know how this live stream is going to go before it even starts, because what have I said about CPI for the last, 6 or 7 months since we've been doing this live stream? It's that if you look at the report, we're having a lot of problems in 3 main categories, and that is food, gas, and shelter. And yes, it is true that CPI and inflation is coming down on a year-over-year and a month-over-month basis, but if you look at the 3 key categories that I believe impacts the average everyday Americans the most, we're actually not seeing much headway in inflation coming down. If anything, we're seeing the opposite way. We're seeing inflation reaccelerate to the upside, especially as it relates to shelter. So without further ado, team, let me go ahead and throw my backpack on. I wanted to start off this live stream inside the office, but I think there's some event going on in there, which is kind of strange because it is Valentine's Day, but can't argue with corporate America. All right, we have the one and only Hermes Addict is here. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, and happy Valentine's Day to you. Hey, my buddy Mark T. This is Tom. 71 degrees in Miami, Florida. 64 here where I am. Welcome. Joining us. Happy Valentine's Day to you. Hopefully you're celebrating it in a positive way. Steph UH says, Tom, even if inflation does come down, the prices will stay high. You know, not in all cases, but in some circumstances you are right, Steph UH, but we'll talk about that as well. Vinny is here, says, good evening, Tom. Standing in concert my wife dragged me to in DC. I'm listening in with you every night. Well, thank you so much, Vinny. I appreciate that. For all of those who are new to the Walks on Wall Street stream, we are now here in downtown Miami, right outside of the office here. This is 200 Southeast Financial Center. This is one of the tallest office buildings in downtown Miami. It is an absolutely gorgeous building. And on the 20th floor, that is actually where our friends Citadel Securities is having their temporary headquarters until they build their official base in Brickell, where we will be walking to today. Yo, Sparks Carnival says Airbnb took off after hours. Yeah, Sparks Carnival, you're right. And Airbnb posted a pretty good quarter. I think we're going to do a breakdown on that tomorrow, but I'm curious to see what you thought of Airbnb's earnings report. My friend Diego is here, says, hey Tom, how did you learn macroeconomics if you're not an economist? You know, just being a basic market participant. You know, I didn't major in economics, but I did minor in it. And I think if you're gonna manage money yourself or manage money for clients, you sort of have to be up to date on the economy. And I enjoy it. I enjoy it. My good friend Hawaii is here. Says, love it, good to see you, Hawaii. Thank you for joining us on this CPI Tuesday. Dallas says, howdy, Tom. Recently, there has been an incident with China on suspected spy balloons in the sky. What are your thoughts on this? Yeah, I mean, Dallas, I don't think the Chinese spy balloon stuff has had any material impact on financial markets. You know, I've been a little bit mixed about it, but I think my final conclusion is that if there's anybody that can handle this and take care of it, it's going to be the United States military. You know, just look at this is sort of what I'll say about that. You know, look at our spending. Look at government spending as it relates to military spending. And if we can't figure out how to pop a couple spy balloons with multi-billion, almost trillion-dollar military budget, then I think we got bigger problems. Hey, there is here. Says, how do you know what you want to do in career? I don't know. I just kind of figure things out. I mean, I think you just got to try a bunch of stuff. You know, less thinking and just more doing. It's just like try a bunch of stuff. I guess that would be my only piece of advice, is just constantly try things. Hey, TC is here. Says, good to see you streaming, Tom. Welcome, TC. It's a very windy night here in Miami. But tonight we are going to be talking all about inflation. So inflation is the name of the game, because the CPI is one of the main things that the Federal Reserve looks at to sort of formulate their opinions on how they're going to change monetary policy down the road. Now, as you guys know, the Fed funds rate right now is almost at 5%. The target right now is 4.5 to 4.75. Now, futures markets are actually pricing in 2 additional 25 basis point rate hikes, which would actually take the Fed funds rate over 5%. Now, it's interesting because we actually had a pretty volatile day, not only in the equity market, but also the bond market as well. I want everybody, you know, if you have a Bloomberg terminal or you use TradingView or sort of whatever piece of charting software you use, you know, take a look at the chart of the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield. Once we got that CPI number out, we started to sell off materially in the bond market. That 10-year U.S. Treasury yield rose significantly throughout the day, and I think in after hours, we continue to climb. So keep an eye on the bond market, because if we think about housing, and housing is a significant weighting in CPI with the new calculation, shelter costs is about 44% of the entire CPI now, interest rates are going to affect housing in a very big way. And if we think about what impacts the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage, it actually is the 10-year US Treasury. That is the benchmark from which the vast majority of other debt instruments are priced. So if the 10-year US Treasury yield is going up and bonds are selling off, well, you could probably bet that the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage is going to be going up as well. All right, for those of you who don't know, if you look across the waterway here, this is actually Brickell Key. And Brickell Key is an absolutely gorgeous place in Miami. It is a little bit secluded from downtown and Brickell because there is no Metro Mover that goes there. There is no train. The only way to get on and off the island of Brickell Key is to take this little bridge all the way in the distance there. We'll actually cross the street in front of the Aston Martin building. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Maybe tonight we'll have some time to actually walk over to Brickell Key. We'll see. Vladin is here, says, good evening, Walks on Wall Street. Hey, do you have any gold metallic? I don't. Bree Grams, good to see you. Welcome, Bree. Susanna Q4 says, happy Valentine's Day, Tom. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Edward says, Tom, since it's Valentine's Day, I know, yeah, if it doesn't guarantee alpha, hilarious. Funny. George Hernandez, welcome. John Lee says, hey, Tom, did you see the NASDAQ green even though the CPI came in hotter than expected? I did. So the only major equity index that was actually finished in the green today was the tech-heavy NASDAQ. Now, I have some mixed feelings about the CPI report because did it come in above expectations? It did. However, there were some key categories that actually showed inflation coming down materially. But as you guys know, my main concern is that the categories that matter most to the average everyday American are not improving at all. Right now, you guys are looking at the beautiful Aston Martin building. This building is almost complete, and one of the things I'm most excited about as it relates to the Aston Martin building is that they are going to be extending the Miami Riverwalk. So if you see this walking path right here, they're actually going to be extending it all the way behind the Aston Martin building. So not only residents and tenants of the building can, enjoy the beautiful view of Brickell Key, people like you and me can as well. But let's cross the street here. Colleen is joining us. Welcome. Good to see you. Sparks Carnival says, Tom, I can't wait for the Bentley Residences oceanfront condos. Yes, I can't wait for that either. Now, I think that's in Sunny Isles Beach, right? Now, for those of you who don't know, Sunny Isles Beach is right over the bridge from North Miami Beach, and it's considered to be the billionaire's row of Miami. You not only have the Bentley Residences that are going up, but you also have the Porsche Design Tower. And rumor has it is if you actually purchase a unit in the Porsche Design Tower, it comes with a free Porsche. So keep that in mind for anybody who is interested. Oh yeah, guys, I would like to point out, you're going to be seeing a ton of amazing boats this week. And that is because we have a big boating and yacht event going on here in downtown Miami. I think it runs for the next couple days here. So you are going to be seeing some amazing yachts, some amazing boats. I think it's the largest, if not one of the largest, yachting and boating events in the entire world. I'll give you guys one quick look at the Citibank Tower. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the headline CPI number for a moment. So for January, CPI came in at 6.4%. That is the headline reading for year-over-year inflation. But let's compare that to the December reading. Okay, so if you remember correctly, if you look back to the live stream we did this time last month, the headline number actually came in at 6.5%. So on a year-over-year basis, we're seeing a little bit of deceleration as it relates to inflation. Now, my biggest concern is actually with the month-over-month number. So month-over-month inflation actually rose by 0.5%. If you look at the December month-over-month number, inflation rose at 0.1%. So we're starting to see inflation reaccelerate here a little bit. Now, if we just quickly think about some reasons as to why that may be happening, and we'll talk about this as I'll give you guys an amazing view of some of the newly finished balconies here at the Aston Martin building. It's because what have we been talking as it relates to crude oil, everybody? You know, we had this massive sell-off in crude. If you guys want to follow along, it's ticker symbol CL. That is the ticker for crude oil futures, the crude oil futures contract. Now, we've corrected materially ever since March of 2022. Crude was trading at $130. We are now trading at $78, but we've started to actually catch a little bit of a bid here in crude and rally back up. And if you notice from this month's CPI report, for those of you who are just joining, if you type !CPI in the chat, one of the things that you'll see is energy, fuel, gasoline has been one of those categories that have actually reaccelerated in the month of January. You would know that if you were watching crude. Now, I think this is one of these, you know what, it's not. I was about to say Lamborghini trucks, but I think this is one of the Rolls-Royce SUVs. For whatever reason, everybody, this place always has very, very expensive cars outside. Hey, my friend Al Baker is here. Says hello, everybody from Hollywood, Florida. Al, happy Valentine's Day to you. Happy Tuesday. Happy CPI Tuesday to you. Quinn says, what venue will the boat show be held? It's actually going to be held, I think, right outside of the former FTX Arena. But I think there's 3 main locations. It may be South Beach, definitely one by the FTX Arena or whatever we should call it now, and then one other location, but I forget the other location. If I had to guess, I would say Hall Over Inlet, perhaps. We'll see. Hey, Austin City Limits. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Now, everybody's all up in arms because they're changing the way CPI is being calculated again. But I don't think we should get too frazzled here. And I'll quickly explain in a sentence or two, sum up what the material change is. Now, do I think it's a big deal? Do I think we need to pay attention to it too much? Not really, not really. And I'm actually going to try to put maybe a little bit of a positive spin on it here to give a scenario where CPI could really start to crater and accelerate and actually decline substantially. So we'll talk about that. So for this month, this is the first month that they are changing the way CPI is calculated. Now, the new calculation is going to put more weighting on housing/shelter and less on used cars or used vehicles. So if you think about how shelter is calculated, you can think about owner's equivalent rent. So in the calculation of shelter, owner's equivalent rent is being bumped up to about 25%. And then the entire calculation of CPI overall is going to have a 44% weighting. Man, that guy just blew a red light. Did you guys see that? Jeez. He almost hit the dog too. What the hell? Man, and see, that's the thing that's crazy. These people drive like maniacs and then they just blow a red light to sit in the next red light. Anyway, so CPI, 44% is shelter costs, right? And if you think about what we've been talking about in the housing market in general, it's that the main narrative is that sales transactions, both on existing home sales and new home sales, is declining quite a bit. And that is due to increased interest rates, right? So if you think Fed funds futures, after today's CPI report, futures markets are pricing in about 2 additional 75 basis point rate hikes. Okay, so that's probably going to take the Fed funds target rate over 5%. If that happens, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is going 7% plus. And I think that is going to be the nail in the coffin, so to speak, to start having existing home prices and new home prices start to decline here rather rapidly. So if you think about the new calculation, and if you think about how CPI is going to be almost 44% shelter costs, and if you look at the leading economic indicators and the leading economic data about the housing market, we could potentially really see CPI come down substantially if higher interest rates, I guess, prick the bubble, so to speak. I guess, during these days, I'll say prick the balloons, since we have Chinese spy balloons clanging and banging around the United States. Western Mass Dave is here. What's up, Dave? Happy Valentine's Day to you. Happy Inflation Day to you, my friend. Twitch ASMR says, Tom, the new way is bogus. Eggs were left off the chart. Yeah, but I mean, the only, I would say, big material changes, though, like the big changes, is just the weightings, right? Now, I get it's bogus. I get that real inflation is probably double digits if we actually calculated inflation how we calculated it back in the 80s. I get that. But from an investment standpoint, or from an investment thesis standpoint, I don't think everybody should get super frazzled here. I guess that's the only thing I'm trying to say. But you're 100% right. Wow, look at this. Guys, anybody know what this thing is? Kind of looks like a Ferrari. Well, it has the Ferrari symbol on it, but it doesn't look like a Ferrari. Strange. Hey, my friend Jay Sully is here. What's up, Jay? Thanks for joining us. Keith says, Tom, saw that auto loan delinquencies at highest rates since 2006. And auto loan default rates are up, but not as much. Interesting. I didn't see that. Although mostly delinquencies will eventually lead to default. Interesting. Now, Keith, speaking of cars, it's funny that you mentioned that, because one of the only areas, or I should say categories, of this CPI report that actually declined materially is used vehicles, right? So if you look at used cars, used trucks, on a year-over-year basis, I think this is Rolls-Royce too, right? On a year-over-year basis, used car prices actually declined 11.6% year-over-year. On a month-over-month basis, used vehicles declined 1.9% month-over-month. So, but again, my point, guys, oh, look at this guy coming by. I think he's actually going to park here. This yacht is usually parked here. That thing looks amazing. Hey, UniJ22, what's up? Good to see you. Now, that's exactly my point, because I think if I was Fed Chair Jerome Powell, right, I would base my policy or my monetary policy based on what the vast majority of Americans are feeling every day, right? So the middle class or the lower class, right? I would sort of think about the higher class Americans, high income earners, a little bit less, just out of being fair. And the reason why I say that, again, type exclamation point CPI in the chat. You could read the CPI report for yourself. The three main categories where we saw acceleration as it relates to inflation is food, energy, and shelter, both on a year-over-year basis and a month-over-month basis, which to me is very concerning. Really quick, guys, I want to point out this building right here, or these two buildings. This is the W Hotel and Tower. This is actually one of my favorite residential buildings in all of Miami. And the reason why I say that is because it is in the Brickell neighborhood, but you're still very close to transportation. You're right on the beautiful Miami Riverwalk, and you're minutes from all the major office buildings in downtown Miami. Hey, B. Smith is here. What's up? Zozo Bob, welcome. Good to see you. Now, if you want to look at the food category as a whole, right, because the food category breaks down into two distinct segments, which is food at home and food away from home. But I think just to make it simpler for the live stream, if you look at food, it's up 10.1% year over year. And on a monthly basis, food is up 0.5%. That's pretty significant for the average guy and girl like myself, going to Walmart, going to Whole Foods, going to Publix and trying to get ourselves some chicken, some meat, some eggs. That's a significant price increase there. Now, if you think about food at home, so think about all of us that are trying to cut back, save money, cook meals at home, that even went up again. If you look at a year-over-year basis, food at home is up 11.3%, guys. And on a month-over-month basis, it's up 0.4%. So almost 0.5% again, which is wild. Energy, let's talk about that. Up 8.7% year over year and up 2% month over month. Okay, 2% month over month. But we got to take a pause right there and we got to talk about this, and I'll tell you why. We got to do a rewind here and think back to our live stream where we were talking about the December CPI numbers as it relates to energy prices and gasoline. You'll actually notice that if you look at the gasoline category for this month, it increased 2.4% on a month-over-month basis. But if you look at the December numbers, we were down 7%. And that's because crude oil was getting killed. Crude oil was getting hammered, right? But we're sort of finding this base here in crude. I think we're actually trading above the 50-day moving average. So if I was the Biden administration here, I would do everything in my power to give incentives to the oil companies, whatever it takes, to force these guys to drill, baby, drill. Because, again, we talked about the new calculation. We talked about the main three things in the CPI report that is very, very concerning. And the only three things that are going up as it relates to month-over-month inflation, it's energy, gasoline, it's food, and it's shelter. So if I was the Biden administration, I would be freaking hammering these guys to drill, baby, drill, get crude oil down. Russia's not helping us out. Big article. This is Brickell Key, by the way. Big article came out. Vladimir Putin's not going to help us out. He's not going to play ball. He is advising, Russia to cut 5% of oil output. So that is going to be, well, I want to be careful how I say this. It's not going to be good for the price of crude oil. Let's just say that. So I think Western nations, the United States, Canada, maybe even Mexico, needs to do a little bit, pick up the slack because Russia is not going to play ball. Hey, CL is here. This is Drill Baby Drill. Good to see you, CL. Always appreciate you joining us in the chat. TC says, I was shocked to see 12-pack of Kansas soda at the grocery store at $10 a couple days ago. What? What kind of soda was that? Better cure cancer. Hey, Tortellini, welcome. Kevin Ramsey says, seems like forever since I have been on this stream. Yeah, Kevin, welcome back, my friend. Look at this dog here. Hello. Beautiful dog. John says, Tom, I paid $4.19 for a dozen extra large eggs at Kroger earlier. It's a better price than what I'm paying here in Miami, my friend. All right, let's continue to walk down here. I'll give you guys some better views. I see my good friend and moderator, Sunshine After Rain. Good to see you. Kevin Ramsey, welcome. Stephanie says, love the boats. Good to see you, Stephanie. Now, I forgot. You're right, it is Valentine's Day. So you notice a lot of the restaurants here are filled to the brim. They're pretty packed. The investigator is here. Welcome, investigator. Lillis is Tom. Another neighbor is selling their condo. Last neighbor sold for $165. This current one is selling for $175, identical unit. I was hoping housing would come down. Yeah, well, the problem, and Lila, thank you for that. The drawbridge is about to go up, so maybe we'll see some crazy boats come by here. But here's the problem, guys. If we want the prices of homes to come down, let's go back to Economics 101. We need supply to come back on the market. Now, I forgot who it was. Was that Keith that put in the chat just a while ago that auto loans are starting to pick up as it relates to defaults and delinquencies? So note what Keith said there, okay? If you think about your hierarchy of needs, you're gonna pay your mortgage before anything else. So maybe this is the first domino to fall. People would much rather stay up to date on their rent or stay up to date on their mortgage payments as opposed to, paying their car notes. So maybe this is, a domino effect starting here. I don't know, but we'll see. I think the main point is if we want to start to see real estate prices come down, yes, interest rates are going up and that's killing demand, but we still have a little bit of a supply problem, and I think that is undeniable. So there needs to be a catalyst to create that supply problem. Many people think, and many people that actually I tend to disagree with, but I think it's good to acknowledge their thought process here. They think it's all of these layoffs that are happening in the tech sector is going to, force people to default on their mortgages and have these, homes go back to the banks. But if you look at the data, all of these tech workers who are getting laid off here, guys, it's taking them about 3 months to find another job. And chances are that job is going to pay them more than the one they left. So who knows? John is here, says agreed. Very nice. Good to see you, John. Let's see what kind of boat comes through here. Yeah, Sean, I did see the Ohio train derailment. That's horrible. Oh, I think this is Dan Zhang here on this yacht. This is Dan's yacht. I think he got an upgrade. Looks pretty good. Good job, Dan. Troy Atman, what's up? Good to see you. Dan Zhang says, Tom, I know inflation will be down when a large Starbucks coffee goes down to less than $3 again. Yeah, that's true. Now, speaking of commodities, you guys want to know something funny? Does anybody want to take a guess at, well, I should say on a relative basis, the commodity that's performing the best as it relates to price appreciation? Anybody want to take a guess? It's orange juice. Orange juice futures are through the roof. Hey, For You says, hey Tom, supply is picking up and expect many will list over the next 30 to 45 days. Further increasing supply, keep an eye on this. Yeah, I mean, we hope, right? I mean, we could only hope for that. Now, here's some anecdotal data talking about the housing market. There was a home that just sold in my neighborhood for over $500, and the house needs work. Let's just say that. I don't want to give away too much because, for obvious reasons, but the house needs work, and just 3 years ago, if you wanted to buy the same home, you could probably buy it for $300. It's sold for a little over $5. So that gives you an idea of still how crazy things are now in the housing market. I think the only good thing is that all of these bidding wars are pretty much gone now. So you have the bidding war nonsense, the craziness ceasing to exist. Still a lot of cash buyers in the marketplace too. Hey, Matthew M is here. What's up, Matthew? War Walker, welcome. Look at all these boats coming by, guys. There is a boat show here in Miami, but it looks like everybody's taking out the boat for Valentine's Day. It's kind of crazy. So since we've been talking about shelter, let's actually get to the concrete CPI numbers as it relates to shelter costs. So on a year-over-year basis, shelter increased 7.9%. But here's one even more wild for you guys. On a month-over-month basis, shelter is up 0.7%. I mean, really think about that for a moment. So shelter is almost going up at 1% clip per year, right? You know, if we follow on this trajectory, if we follow on this track, you know, housing inflation is going to be 10% a year. So, you know, we have a lot of comments in the chat, and hopefully they're right. I'm actually pulling for that, and that is actually the scenario that I hope to play out and that I think will play out, is that Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, is going to see this inflation report and say, look, the three concrete categories that are most important to the average everyday American, which is food, energy, and shelter, we're not seeing any improvement. We're actually seeing the opposite. We're seeing inflation go up in these categories. If you want to talk about new vehicles, you're 100% right. It is cratering, falling off a cliff, the prices of used cars. But these three categories, it's a little bit sticky. So we're going to continue to raise rates. Right now, as I said before, futures market is pricing in 2 additional 25 basis point rate hikes. That's going to bring the Fed funds rate over 5. That's probably going to send the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield to 4. Then, in turn, that's probably going to send the 30-year fixed rate mortgage to 7. I think, guys, and maybe somebody could Google this and, you know, post it in the chat. I think as of closing today, the average yield on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is 6.60%. That's up 10 basis points from last week, okay? So I'm trying to be conservative here. You know, if you think back to our New York City streams, we had a little bit of a Walks on Wall Street impromptu survey, and a lot of you guys think the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage is going to 10%. It's going to 10. Could you imagine what that would do to the housing market if we had 10% mortgage rates? Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen, but I never rule anything out. I've been wrong before. I'm always wrong. But some of you guys in the chat think the mortgage rates are going to 10. Who knows? Jay Sully says, Tom, you have to make a minimum of $70,000 to $100,000 to survive and be smart with your money nowadays, says Jay Sully. Wow. I mean, especially in big cities like New York, Miami, Austin, Texas, Dallas, these are very, very expensive places, so you do make a good point. Hey, Arsenal Fan 13 is joining us. Happy Tuesday. Happy Valentine's Day to you, and thank you for joining us here at Walks on Wall Street. So we just did a quick walking tour of the Epic Hotel and Residences. An absolutely gorgeous night. I'll give you one more panoramic view. And then we're actually going to be walking across this bridge, everybody, to Brickell. Now, Brickell is the financial district of Miami. It is also called Little Manhattan. I think you guys will enjoy that. Hey, Otto is here. This is 10%, no way, but maybe 8. I think you're right. That is where my consensus lies. I think maybe 30-year fixed rate will go to 8, maybe. But there's some people, and you know, really smart people were emailing me. They're like, "Hey Tom, I saw the stream. I love the stream. I love what you're doing. You know, I have X amount of years experience in the real estate business. Let me tell you, 30-year fixed rate mortgages are going back to 10." I'm like, okay, we'll see. Look, I could be wrong. Maybe Otto, I think you're right, which is my sort of thought, but we'll see. This is the entrance to the Epic Hotel and Residences here. My friend Meld says, Tom, I'm in Dallas and I'm hemorrhaging money with my rent. What is the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Dallas? Anybody know? Maybe Meld, you'll know since you live there. It can't be New York prices. I don't think it's going to be New York. I think the closest thing you have to New York City prices is LA and then Miami. For you, says Tom, I'm a little concerned over the homeowner insurance situation in Florida. Folks with HOAs are getting hurt. I've seen HOAs go up $6,000 a year. You know what? It's so strange. I was just talking about that with somebody over my Instagram DM. And you're 100% correct. And somebody asked me this question. They said, hey, Tom, would you ever consider buying a condominium in Miami or in a high-rise building? And this is what my thoughts are. Here's my thoughts. If you have a lot of money, okay, and you're not looking to, cash flow the property and make money that way, then enjoy yourself. Buy in a high-rise new building. Because here's what I see happening in Miami, Florida. If you're just trying to get into the real estate business or you're buying something for an investment, I would stay away from all of these high-rise HOA buildings that are built pre-year 2000. And the reason for that is because ever since the horrible, horrible tragedy of Surfside, and I don't even like talking about it because it's just so heartbreaking, governments and regulatory, I should say, fail-safes are going to be under huge scrutiny as it relates to high-rise buildings, condominiums in Miami. And if you're paying an HOA, you're pretty much at the whim of the HOA. They could force you to pay, pony up $100,000 to make necessary repairs to bring your building back up to code. So if you're looking to purchase in Miami, and here's, a thesis, and I'm thinking about writing about this in the newsletter, I think that this problem that 4U is pointing out in the chat, I think it's going to create a massive flight to quality, to brand new luxury apartment buildings and to single family duplexes and triplexes. And I think a lot of people in South Florida are going to get really, really hurt if they own property in an older condominium high-rise building. Not only for that reason that the HOA fees are going up, but because of the cost of the insurance. Now, if you think about homeowners insurance in Southern Florida, it's just ridiculous. Like it's just embarrassing. I don't even want to talk about it. I pay a ridiculous amount in homeowners insurance. I think I pay over $3,000 a year. And that's obviously due to the hurricane risk, that's due to the flood risk, but also it's due to a lot of the roofing scams that have been going on pretty much freely here in Southern Florida, but we can make a whole other stream for that in and of itself. But you're 100% correct, and I think that was the comment of the night so far. So I would be very, very conscious of that. South Florida is a very attractive place. People want to come here. I love it here. I live here, but you got to do your diligence. You have to do your due diligence. And I think we're at a very pivotal moment in the housing market. So if you're looking to move to Southern Florida and if you're looking to buy something, here's what I would say. Don't buy just yet. Move to the neighborhood you want to move to, but rent for 6 months. This is the Miami Tower, by the way. It's the City National Bank. I would try to talk to the landlord or maybe do some sort of a sublet process or program where you rent for 6 months, because if we think about all of the leading economic indicators, if we think about, interest rates are going up, if we think about the trajectory of the economy with people getting laid off, there's a possibility that while demand continues to dwindle for housing, we could have a wave of supply come onto the market, and in 6 months, maybe the home that you're looking at goes down 2 or 3%, right? Then you can make your decision. But I think you have an asymmetric trade here where if you wait 6 months, I don't think real estate price is going to go up in 6 months, right? That is my thesis. So if you're trying to build that risk-reward ratio, I think you have a better risk-reward renting right now, feeling out the market, because I don't think real estate's going to go up that much in the next 6 months. If anything, I think it's probably going to go down. And even if you're wrong, the risk to the upside is very, very small. Very, very small. It's just a good point. All right, this is exactly where we were walking at down here. Austin city limits is Tom. I pay $1,800 a year for my double wide home, 52 long, 18 feet wide here in New Mexico. Terry says, Mel, my son lives in North Austin and he pays $1,900 for 1,000 square feet. That's a lot. I mean, that's actually pretty good. That's actually a good price. I mean, thinking about New York prices. Steph UH says, my daughter pays over $2,000 for a small 2-bedroom in Plantation, Florida. Wow. Gabe is here, says, have you heard about District 225 downtown? Condo partnership with Airbnb. You know, I have. Gabe, I think that building that you're talking about is right next to my favorite building in Miami, which is the Freedom Tower. Is that the building that you're talking about? I forget the name of it, man, but I think you're right. They built, so originally, I'm just going to assume I know what you're talking about, or we're talking about the same thing. There's a brand new, gorgeous, high-rise apartment complex that went up in downtown Miami, right next to the Freedom Tower, and it is solely being used as investments. So people buy it, and then they do short-term rentals like VRBO or Airbnb. I think it's a pretty good idea. All right, I'll give you guys one more shot of the view here. It's crazy windy up here. I wonder if you guys could hear the wind in the microphone, but this is the Aston Martin Tower. This building is going to be absolutely gorgeous once it's finished. Now, I think, we have a lot of debate. What's better, New York, LA, Miami? But I think we could all agree that this is just gorgeous in its own way, right? I think New York has its charm. LA has its charm. But Miami has its charm too. I mean, this is absolutely gorgeous. I could stand here all day and look at this amazing view of Brickell Key. It's unbelievable. Keith says, Tom, when will the Aston Martin building be finished? I'm not sure. I think it's supposed to finish construction early 2024. But I'm not sure if Zozo Bob is in the chat. Zozo Bob is usually our de facto real estate expert for Southern Florida, especially Miami. So if Zozo Bob is in here, maybe. Zozo Bob, do you know when the Aston Martin building is actually going to be complete? And what I mean by complete is tenant ready to move in. I think by early 2024, right? I think. Don't quote me on that, but. Now, if you look back at some of our previous Miami live streams, you'll actually see the top half of the building being built. I may go back and make like a little mini time lapse. Hey, Dr. Longus is here. Good to see you. Always appreciate your presence here, my friend. Mike says, sup, Tom? Sup, Mike? Elias says, hey, happy day. Good to see you. Hey, CA2SD says, Tom, your channel is growing. Congratulations. It deserves to be higher, though. This channel is like an online class I look forward to. I really appreciate your kind words. So thank you for that. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you for saying very nice things about the channel. All right, so now we are walking across the bridge. We are officially in Brickell. This is the mini Manhattan. You can see the Bank of America Tower right here. But this is pretty unique. This is the W Hotel and Residences. And for those of you who are new to our Miami streams, if you look really, really closely right here, you could actually see faces in these columns. A little crazy, a little sketchy, but I think unique in its own right. If you look at this automatic door right here to the left, this is the residences. Okay, so you could actually buy and rent in this building. And I could tell you with exact certainty, the views from this building are absolutely to die for. They are gorgeous. You could see the Aston Martin building, the 200 Southeast Financial Center. You could see Miami Tower, which is the City National Bank building. But if you want to just stay for a weekend, you're more than welcome to. Door number 2 is the hotel entrance. Has a pretty nice lobby, and they actually have one of my favorite coffee shops in Miami right in the lobby. It's called Panther Coffee. I think the original location is actually in the Wynwood section of Miami, but they have a satellite location right in the lobby of the W Hotel, which is pretty cool. Hey LL, what's up? Good to see you. Quinn says, for many people, a house is not an investment. It's just a place to live, says Quinn. That's a good point, but I think it just depends on your financial situation too, right? You know, renting is not all that bad. A lot of people think that renting is just throwing money down the drain. It's actually not. Renting can be a fantastic investment, and I'll tell you why. When you're young and if you're pursuing a career, you really want mobility. Mobility is number one, because I'll tell you guys something. You know, now I guess I'm technically a landlord, but I'm only a landlord for technically 2 units. And it's not easy. I'm telling you guys, it's not, right? It's work. So renting will give you the freedom of mobility. So if you're early on in your career and you want to try out different cities, if you want to live in New York, if you want to live in Miami, if you want to live in LA, right, for a couple of years, you can do that. You have no obligation. And, you know, with a lot of the renter laws, you could just pick up and leave and nobody will really say anything. So I think renting serves its purpose, but when you're ready to buy and you have enough cash in the bank, I also think ownership is very important, especially if you find a deal where you could cash flow the property. You know, one of the things that I do, and you guys know, oh, really quick, this is the coffee shop. It's called Panther Coffee. Really good. If you want a comparison to the taste of the coffee, has anybody ever been to Irving Farm in Manhattan? Irving Farm Coffee Roasters is very similar taste to this. Anyway, but ownership is fantastic, not only for the tax implications, but you can essentially, if you do it the right way, you can bring your cost of living to zero, if you do it the appropriate way. Let's say if you buy a single family home, okay? It's a 4-bedroom house, 2 bathrooms. You know, what you could do is you could live in one of those bedrooms and just rent out the other 3. The property is probably going to cash flow, and now you have the roommates paying your mortgage. You're building equity every day, and now you don't pay anything in rent, right? So there's a lot of different ways, there's a lot of different scenarios, but I think you're right. If you're just going to buy a home just to live in it, well, then I guess you're a speculator, because the only way that you're going to make money is if your home goes up in value. That's a good point. Hey, Rod is here. What's up? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Says, hello, Tom, and hello, Miami. Welcome. Perry Kirby says, Tom, when I was younger, I did pay 10% on a mortgage, so it is very possible. Just the weather and climate is more like the year 1983, says Perry Kirby. I think I'm going to give you the comment of the night because you're giving perspective. And here's what I mean by that. Ever since the 2008 financial crisis, everybody, including myself, has become so conditioned to low interest rates and artificially low interest rates be at that. But there were times in America where people were buying homes and the economy was doing just as fine with 10% mortgage rates. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Yeah, well, Tom, look at the national debt. You know, if we ever go back to a normal interest rate policy in the United States, you know, think about what our payments would be just on the interest of the debt. That I agree, that I see your point. Abdullah is here, says, what's up, Tom? Good to see you. The one and only Sabrina Fair is joining us. Good to see you, Sabrina. Thanks for being here. Dan says, hey, Tom. What's up, Dan? War Walker says, Tomcat, how's the driveway? I mean, the driveway is holding up as best as it can. The only other thing I got to do is the guy is going to come and put the clusia all up along the left side of the driveway. And he was supposed to come and do it yesterday, but he didn't show up. And then he just ghosted me and he never texted me again. Now, it's only been 24 hours, so we'll see what happens there, but they're busy. People are moving to Florida. People are busy. All right, let me catch up on some of the comments here. James Tiger says, Tom, try Blue Bottle coffee. Blue Bottle's good. I like Blue Bottle. Blue Bottle's not bad. Steph UH says, Tom, is your house a duplex? My son wants to invest in multifamily properties. So my home, I bought it as a single family residence. However, it's now a legal two-family because, is everybody familiar with what a Florida room is? I'm sure everybody who's from Florida is. But it's a very big wraparound room that goes the entire perimeter of the house. The way it's set up, long story short, if you just put a divider wall up, that means one of the bedrooms has its complete separate entrance. So now it's a legal two-family. But it was purchased as a single-family residence, not as a duplex. I think this is a Lambo. Maybe this is Vinny's Lambo here. Hey, Vivian, what's up? Vivian Francesca is here. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this Valentine's Day. You guys are going to see the beautiful Miami Riverwalk. Wow, check that out. That is just an awesome, awesome view. Now, all the way in the distance, everybody, is the Mandarin Oriental Hotel. If you remember from our New York City live streams, at Columbus Circle in the Deutsche Bank Tower, they also have a Mandarin Oriental. It's just gorgeous here. It's gorgeous here, man. I love it. Hey, George, thank you so much for your $7.99 donation. You are very kind, and I appreciate you to the fullest, my friend. Christina says, Tom, do you believe there are a lot of successful millennium career-focused people? What do you mean by that? Maybe I'm misreading your comment. Dan says, how many times do you travel from New York City to Florida in a year, if you don't mind me asking? I don't. I do not mind you asking. No, I don't know. I think it just depends on my clientele. On, like, if clients need me in New York, or if I have meetings in New York or Miami. But now that I'm doing something completely different, that's going to change completely. So the honest answer is, as of right now, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm just taking it day by day. But let's put it this way. I hope to spend more time here, at least in the winter months. But in the summer, you guys know me, you know, it's run and gun in New York. You know, we're running New York in the summer because that's the place to be. I mean, who wouldn't want to be in New York City in the summer? Must be something wrong with you. Look at this. Just gorgeous restaurant overlooking the water here. Now, speaking of airline tickets, that was actually another category of CPI that did decline quite materially actually. Airfare declined both year over year and month over month. But here's what I'll say, because you guys know me, I'm used to paying like $77. Look at this plane taking off from MIA. So I'm used to paying like $77 one way from either Fort Lauderdale or Miami flying into LaGuardia or JFK, I'm paying like $150 now. So think about that. That's a real life gauge of inflation. On a year-over-year basis, I'm paying like 100% more, quite literally, for airfare. I'm not sure about anybody else. Anybody else travel a lot in the comments and want to weigh in on what you guys are paying for airfare? Because for me, I mean, it's quite literally doubled. I'm not sure if it's just because of the demand from people flying back and forth between Miami and New York, but I'm paying guys like $150, which it kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie, it sucks. Here we have the Aston Martin building, and they are going to extend the Miami Riverwalk right here, which is going to be great. And now I will pan back over to Brickell Key. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams about 5 days a week between New York City and Miami. And we'd love to have you guys joining us right here on Walks from Wall Street. Jeff277 says that $77 must be Spirit, which means you get ripped off with the bags. So I used to fly American Airlines exclusively. Now I am exclusive to Delta due to their partnership with T-Mobile. Hey, Bernard Conte is here. Says, good evening, Tom. Keep up the good work. Duplex is the way to go. That's what I'm doing over here in Wisconsin. Over 20 years, great investment. Now extra cash goes into my pocket. Hey, dude, congratulations to you. That's what it's about, my friend. It's the American dream. Love that. Congratulations on your success. Martin says, Tom, it looks like low tide. It really does. Here's another boat coming by. Hey, Celestal says, hey Tom, good to see you. Welcome to Miami. Vivian says, I used to pay $150 round trip with Delta in the 1980s. Really? Wow. Okay, so Timberwolf 720 says, Tom, you're paying more for airfare right now because it's high travel season between Florida and other states. You could be right. But I remember paying $77 this time last year. But you are 100% correct, because as of right now, this is when a lot of the snowbirds from the Northeast come down to Florida. So you are 100% right. So there's a lot more demand. You could be right. Could be right. Mike says, Tom, I flew JetBlue round trip from Providence to Fort Lauderdale last year for $400. Providence for $400. I guess that's good. $200 each way. Interesting. Keith says also jet fuel costs are up. You are correct. This restaurant's probably going to be really busy for Valentine's Day too. This is one of my favorite places. I've never been here. I'm talking about the looks of the place. You're eating right here, and then you have a beautiful view of Brickell Key. Gorgeous place. Hey, my good friend Brad's Brain. This is Tom. I tell you, price Houston to Raleigh, North Carolina in April, looking at $400 to $500. Holy crap. Well, Brad, congratulations on your big win, my friend. I think your Kansas City Chiefs got the job done, my friend. So congratulations to that. All right, we are going to do a U-turn here and then head to Brickell and the Brickell City Center. For those of you who are just joining, we were talking about inflation tonight. So we have the CPI report that came out. Inflation has gone up 6.4% year over year. It went up 0.5% on a month over month basis. The three main categories that fueled the vast majority of that inflation print was obviously shelter costs and then food and energy. But now let's head out and go to Brickell City Center. Man, it is a gorgeous night tonight. The wind actually died down a little. But now that we did an in-depth detail about the different categories of the CPI report, I think it's important now to talk about the reaction to the CPI report as it relates to equity markets and fixed income in the bond market as well. So did anybody notice the action in the debt market, pre-market actually, when CPI was released, or right at the opening bell? Now, I can sum it up in one word, and that one word is volatility, or maybe two words, extreme volatility, I should say. 10-year U.S. Treasury yield. You can pull it up in your Bloomberg terminal, MarketSmith, or TradingView.com if you want to look at it for free. Again, make sure you're not looking at the price of the bond, make sure you're looking at the yield. Yields, there's an inverse correlation in the debt market. So as bonds sell off, yields go up. The 10-year U.S. Treasury now broke back above the 50-day moving average on its way to the 200-day. I think we finished the day at 3.742%. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if we start making a run at 4% again. And I think that's going to put pressure on the stock market. Now, the only equity indice that finished in the green today was the NASDAQ Composite, the NASDAQ Composite. The S&P 500 was flat. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was flat. But there's an old saying on Wall Street, and usually the first move is the wrong move. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the case this time, but maybe the market is looking forward. Usually the market does look forward about 6 months as it relates to equities. And maybe they're saying, look, yes, inflation is a little bit stubborn as it relates to shelter costs. You know, shelter went up 7.9% year over year. On a month over month basis, it went up 0.7%. But a lot of the other categories, like used vehicles, actually started to decline. And in general, if you think about the headline CPI number from December, it was 6.5%. The January CPI number that we got today was 6.4%. So we're continuing to see deceleration, which over the long term is actually bullish for growth stocks. It's actually bullish for more of the high beta speculative stocks, because the theory there is, look, if inflation's cooling, well, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is probably going to ease up on the rate hikes, and maybe, just maybe, if we're lucky, in 2024, we may start to get some rate cuts. We'll see. However, what I think the market is not taking into account here, look at this building over there. That's gorgeous. Now, what I think the market is not taking into account, respectfully, is that there is a possibility that Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell and all of the other Fed presidents, such as Neil Kashkari, New York Fed President John Williams, they could come together and say, hey, inflation is under control. It's probably going to come back down to our 2% target, but that doesn't mean we're going to cut rates. That doesn't mean we have to stop increasing interest rates. We can just leave the Fed funds rate at 5% for 4 years. Is anybody thinking about that? No. And I know they're not thinking about that because every single tweet that you read on financial Twitter is about the Fed is going to be forced to cut. The Fed is going to be forced to backtrack. The Fed is going to be forced to pivot. Disinflation this, disinflation that. So it's very possible that we could ride into this next decade in a more normalized interest rate environment, and I don't think many people are positioned for that. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying it's a possibility that not a lot of people are talking about. Hey, Nina is here. Says, hey, Tom and team. What's up, Nina? Happy Valentine's Day and happy Tuesday to you. I'll give you guys one more look of the Aston Martin building. the Wells Fargo building and the W Hotel and Residences here as we head into Mary Brickell Village. My friend Ren 1018 says, "You are right, Tom. What happens is not what everybody is talking about. They don't see it coming." Good to see you, Ren 10. Hey, Dan McLaren says, "Tom, the Aston Martin Tower opens in the summer." Now, maybe they'll let us in there one of these days and I could give you guys a tour from the inside of the Aston Martin building. Now, I did receive an email from somebody who's interested in buying a place there. I think the building is about 90% sold out. Brad's Brain says, "I'm wearing a Chiefs shirt to work tomorrow since the parade's tomorrow, even though I'm in Houston." Love that. Oh yeah, that's right. They do the Super Bowl championship parade. Don't they go to Disney World, the winning team? They get a free trip to Disneyland or Disney World, something like that, I think. Hemi Power says 90% sold to who? Probably ultra high net worth individuals. If I had to guess, there's probably a lot of foreign investment in there too. I'd love to see the breakdown or the analysis in the luxury real estate market in the United States with sales transactions coming from abroad. What do you guys think the percentage is, just for fun? I would assume it would probably be high, and here's my guess. And again, this is not based in any concrete data, but here's what I'd say. If you think about a place like New York, if you think about a place like Miami or LA, you know, a lot of these trophy apartments are going up all over the country. And it's attracting investment from foreign investors because, here's what I think. It's a way for foreign investors to move money out of the country. You know, let's say if you're a big Russian billionaire or multimillionaire, if you buy a piece of property in the United States, it's technically a way for you to move some of your wealth outside of Russia. You could say the same thing about any country. I'm just using Russia as an example. But you could think about in China or Venezuela or, you know, Argentina, anywhere. So I think a lot of these trophy apartments are made for very wealthy elite all over the world. If I had to guess, I don't know. What do you guys think? Hey, Randy D is here. What's up, Randy? Welcome. Welcome to Miami, Florida. Michael Joseph says athletes get paid big bucks to say they are going to Disney World. I doubt they really go. No, I think they do go. Rose is flying round trip from San Antonio to Dallas. Used to be $98. It is now $178, $75 more. Wow. Arsenal fan says you think it's 70%? Maybe. Not Shiloh says ultra high net worth individuals from Latin America most likely, and most sit empty. That's another good point about the vacancy there, or I should say the occupancy, not vacancy. You're right. A lot of the buildings on Billionaires Row, a lot of the apartments there in New York and even here, they sit empty. I think, you know, the 432 Park Avenue apartment, the trophy penthouse that was sold for I think over $80 million, the owner has never been. Think about that. The owner has never been there. Got the Metro Mover coming up above. Nina says, agree, Tom. Other people with deep pockets buy property in the United States to move some of their wealth outside of the country. Hey, Smee Media, what's up? Says, that sounds right. High profile apartments. Hey, Vinny, this is Tom. Top 5 buyers of U.S. real estate include Canada, China, Mexico, India, and the United Kingdom. They account for 29% of the $54.4 billion dollar volume. Wow. Well, now that you say Canada, I can believe it because I was taking the scooter today from Sunny Isles Beach, obviously down to the office here at the 200 Southeast Financial Center. I've been seeing so many Canadian license plates. It's like not even to be believed. I never knew that Canadians, especially like Quebec license plates, Montreal, a lot of people come to Miami, Florida from Canada in the winter. I thought that was only like a New York thing or like a Boston thing. But no, a ton of Canadian license plates I've been seeing on the road. Joan K says, hey Tom, good to see you back in Miami. Thank you, Joan. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining us. Kevin Ramsey says, that's super, yeah, for the super rich. Hey, Mr. Gupta says, hello Tom from India. Thank you so much for joining us. Trust your week is going well in India. Roberts is talking of plates. I've seen a ton of California plates here in Tennessee. You know, I'm trying to think if I've seen a lot of California plates here. I see a lot of California license plates in New York, but you know, your thesis makes sense. If you look at the migration trends that started during the Big C pandemic, we can't say the name or else we'll get banned, demonetized, and shadow banned. But anyway, if you look at a lot of the migration trends since the Big C, it's been from states like California to states like Arizona to Texas, and even out of states like New York to places like Florida as well. So it seems like those migration trends may even start to accelerate too. We'll see. All right, let's walk down here to South Miami Avenue and make a left. Now the building that you're going to see right here is Brickell City Center, and it actually has a WeWork location in it. This is also the KPMG building, I think. I think KPMG has an office in here. But this building, I think, is one of the oldest bars in the United States. Established in 1912. Valor Rabbit says, what's up, Tom? Just got off of work. What's up, Valor Rabbit? Hopefully you had a good day at work on this Inflation Tuesday. Ken Glass says, hey, Tom. How you get good deals, airfare, off hours, book early. Yeah, so that's the thing. I can't book early because my life is so freaking chaotic that it's almost impossible for me to schedule anything. Usually it's like a 5-alarm fire drill. I got to jump on the plane and go. I wish I could schedule things in advance, but for me, it's just chaos. Michael Joseph says, Miami horns honking, starting to sound like New York City. Well, we definitely got a lot of New Yorkers here, that's for sure. But for some reason, I think Miami, especially down here in Mary Brickell Village, is a little bit louder than Manhattan sometimes, especially with the dirt bikes riding around. Randy D says, not only Quebec from Canada, but also from Ontario as well. Speaking of another city I want to visit, I would love to visit Ontario. I also want to get back to Niagara Falls. You know, I want to do the whole thing, the United States side, the Canadian side. I want to get back to Canada, man. I love Canada. Jacob O'Brien says, Tom, have you read about or much about the government wanting to cut off / restrict crypto access to the banks? Yeah, well, I'm a little bit torn on that, and I'll tell you why. And we sort of covered this in our New York stream, but almost not to toot my own horn here, but almost everything that we've been talking about is starting to come true. Would you guys agree? Those of you who've been watching Walks on Wall Street for over the past year now, as it relates to the cryptocurrency stuff, everything that we've been saying is coming true. Literally everything. You know, I said I would stay away from all of these alternative crypto coins. I would stay away from all of it because Gary Gensler and the SEC is going to breathe fire on all this stuff and really, really crack down on it, because if you look at securities law and you understand it, these tokens are classified as securities. And I think a lot of the founders of these cryptocurrency projects are going to be accused, right, allegedly, of illegally soliciting unlicensed and unregistered securities. So you're starting to see Gary Gensler and the SEC crack down here, and that's putting additional pressure on some of the, I would say, the mainframe banking institutions like JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, that sort of acts as the feeder institutions to buying cryptocurrencies off of Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, and other broker dealers, right? So here's what I think is going to happen. I'll give a prediction. I think you're going to see a mass consolidation. Let's actually cross the street by the Lucid Motors. Lucid Motors is another publicly traded EV company. We'll talk about that later. I think you're going to have a mass consolidation in the cryptocurrency brokerage space. I think there's only going to be about maybe one or two, I would say, real or solidified cryptocurrency brokerages. I think that's probably going to be Coinbase and Gemini, if I had to pick two. I think a lot of the other ones that are based offshore in like the Cayman Islands and other places, it's going to be illegal for Americans to use them. So I think in the long run, and the SEC has already sort of ruled on this as it relates to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is property, right? It is not a security. For example, if you think about like an Ethereum and another altcoin, it's a group of people that are known that have raised money to build essentially a company, right? A lot of these cryptocurrency projects, these altcoins, they're essentially just companies, right? And a lot of people, what they're doing is they're just saying, oh, you know what? It's not a security because it's cryptocurrency. Yeah, well, it doesn't work that way, okay? You can't just say, oh, we're raising money for this company, but don't call it a company because it's a cryptocurrency, right? So instead of an IPO, you do an ICO. It's very kludgy. Now, a lot of these founders, I'd say the vast majority of them, I don't think they're acting in a nefarious way. I don't. I think it's more so the fault of the regulators to not provide regulatory clarity on the situation, and then you have a huge mess. But if you look back throughout history, it's always the same. The SEC always comes in once everybody gets totally fried and burned. It happens every time, over and over again. Think back to the 2008 financial crisis with the collateralized debt obligations, the CLOs, all these toxic derivatives. Once everybody loses their shirt and the middle class gets fleeced, then it's time for Gary Gensler and the SEC to do something about it. So now that everybody was fleeced in the FTX thing and all these other cryptocurrency scams, now it's time to start ripping out the handcuffs, right, and protecting people. So that's what I think is going to happen. This is the SLX or SLS Lux Tower. One of my favorite things about Mary Brickell Village is just the color. You see all the different rainbow designs on the side of the buildings. It's a very different vibe from Manhattan. The only way I could describe it is just energy. You know, when you're walking through Mary Brickell Village, when you're walking through, especially at night, you can just feel the energy here. Yeah, Nina says nothing new you're saying. Tom, very true. If you look to the left, you can see the Panorama Tower, which is the tallest residential apartment building in Miami. You can see it right here. Gorgeous building. Hey, Jacob O'Brien, thank you so much for joining. Gene says Florida and Texas are now the fastest growing states. Good to see you, Gene. Wow, Gupta says, Tom, in India, crypto is down 60% after rigid tax implications. CL says, I see my apartment. You got a beautiful apartment, man. 45 says, Tom, Montreal Airport has at least 3 flights a day to Fort Lauderdale. I believe it. I've been seeing a ton of Canadians down here, man. We got to get you down here. I think you need a break from the freezing cold in Canada. It was 75 degrees and sunny today. Wow, look at that. That is an interesting shade of black. DM, what's up? Good to see you, DM. Cynthia Ava says, where is this in Miami? This is Mary Brickell Village on South Miami Avenue, outside of the Chipotle. And right across the street is Moxie's. I've never been in here, but supposedly it's a very, very busy place. Pedro is here, says good night from Brazil. Good to see you, Pedro. Seems like everybody's out for Valentine's Day. So this is the heart of Mary Brickell Village, but I would like to say that this building right here is actually going to be torn down, and in its place will be another one of these super tall, I guess I should just say high-rise buildings. The same could be said with exactly across the street where you have the Berkshire Hathaway office, the Starbucks, as well as the FedEx office.
Hello, man. You.
So here's another visual. I think all of this is going to be taken down, and they are going to build buildings similar to these two right here, or I should say these three. Again, you have the Mary Brickell Village sign, the heart of Brickell, right here. All the restaurants seem pretty packed. Hey, Jeff W277 says, Tom, you know something is up when they refer to cryptocurrencies as having a market cap. Yeah, that's true. When does any real currency ever be said to having a market cap? Yeah, I mean, again, like, and this is my opinion, and I always get these very nasty emails when we talk about this, but and I'm a huge crypto bull, by the way, but I think we need to do it the right way. These are companies. A lot of these altcoins are just companies. Well, look at the design on this building here, guys. Gorgeous. Hey, Mecca says, hello, Tom. I'm supposed to be moving to New York soon. I live in Fort Lauderdale. Now, are you coming to Fort Lauderdale anytime soon? Hey, welcome to New York. I should be up to Fort Lauderdale soon. But congratulations on your move. I think you're going to love New York City. And I'm assuming you're probably going to move there in the summer, which is the best place possibly, or the best time, I should say, to move to New York. CL says Bitcoin only. Yeah, I think I would consider myself a little bit of a Bitcoin maximalist until we have the regulatory clarity. Because I just don't want the headache. To be honest. Let's say if, God forbid, Gary Gensler actually does come after individuals. It's a big mess, and it could be a big tax implication too, especially for those people who are not reporting their trades or their buy and sells for different crypto transactions. To the right, I believe, is a very, I don't know if I should say famous, popular maybe is the better word, nightclub. It is called Sexy Fish right here on the, where are we at? On the corner of what? Miami Avenue and 10th, or is this 9th? Michael Joseph says this reminds me of a warmer Upper West Side in New York City. It doesn't really remind me of the Upper West Side much. Upper West Side's more chill than this. I think the only thing I could compare this to maybe, I'm trying to think. I don't know. It's very unique in and of itself. I wouldn't say the Upper West Side though. Wow, everybody's eating outside. It's a really happening night tonight for sure. John says, Tom, Valentine's Day is the second busiest dining out holiday of the year, Mother's Day being the busiest. Did not know that. It's definitely busy here in Miami for sure. It seems like not a lot of people are fazed by the inflation print that we got today. Everybody seems to be out spending. You know, if you look at the categories of food at home and food away from home, both of which categories went up on a year-over-year and a month-over-month basis. So I could imagine a lot of these dinners are pretty expensive. Now to the left here is one of my favorite Argentine restaurants. We're coming up on it in a minute here. Now, I would recommend if you guys are in business and you need to bring a client somewhere, I would bring them here. This place is fantastic. It's right next to the Camden Brickell apartment homes. And you have pretty good views all throughout. Michael Joseph, you're right. Greenwich Village, I'd say. I think you're right. Similar vibe to Greenwich Village. It's a good call. Especially with a lot of the bars, restaurants, things like that. Now the prices weren't too bad here when I came here last. I don't think the damage was too horrible. Peeman says, hey Tom, can people drink on the street? I don't think so. I don't think anywhere in the United States, I think everybody has open container laws, I believe. I think that applies to both. I think that applies to every city. I don't think you're allowed to drink alcohol outside. This is Southwest 11th Street. We'll continue to walk down a little bit more, assuming we don't get knocked off by a vehicle. I think these are the Lamborghini trucks, right guys? Lamborghini SUVs. Oh, I always remember this place is always packed coming up. Hey, Solo Flyers, what's up, Tom? You can take your drink with you in Key West. Oh, can you really? I didn't know that. That must get wild, man. Mecca says, hey Tom, I actually have a job interview at Moxie's in the Mary Brickell Village area next week. Well, let us know how it goes, man. It definitely looks like they could use the help. It's always busy there every time I walk past there. John, hilarious. This is Southwest 12th Street and South Miami Avenue. Now, I forgot to ask you guys, I wanted to take a little bit of an impromptu poll. So we were talking about the individual components of inflation, and I wanted to ask the viewers, the real people who actually spend money in the economy, right? Not just looking at some data points. Are you guys starting to see groceries come down a little bit? Are you finally starting to see, you know, the used car that you wanted to buy drop in price? Are you starting to see your rents come down? You know, what are you guys seeing in your neck of the woods? I mean, I sort of gave you guys a little bit of a synopsis of what I'm seeing here in Miami, Florida, as well as New York City, but I wanted to turn it back over to you guys in the chat, the people who matter most. You guys seeing things come down? Maybe a little? Julia M says no. Okay. Wow. B Kim says not really at all. GGMYC says nope. B Smith says nope. Cynthia says Tom, not in New York City. Wow, we don't have not one comment yet that says yes. Cayenne Pacific says definitely nope. 61 says yeah, things are coming down a little bit. Nina says not at all, Tom. Southern California, the fuel is still ridiculous. MZ Vicky says no, rent is going up more here in North Carolina. Wow, which part of North Carolina? 407 says I'm seeing lots of stuff on sale here in Canada. Wow. So almost every single person in the chat except 61 is saying that prices are still high and going higher. Wow. Now, in my personal experience, things are still pretty elevated, but my shelter costs are pretty fixed, right? I own my home, so my mortgage payment is fixed. So, I don't know. I try to cook as much as possible when I'm in Miami. I'll give you guys an actual data point of what I bought today, okay? I went to the Publix. I got 2 New York strip steaks, okay, 2 New York strip steaks. One, I guess, serving, you could call it, of chicken tenderloins, I think it was called. And what else did I get? Oh yeah, a frozen bag of vegetables. Does anybody want to take a guess, okay, at what 2 New York strip steaks, just one regular size thing of chicken tenderloins, and a bag of frozen vegetables? Does anybody want to take a gander at what I paid today at Publix? And keep in mind, okay, from the CPI report, food was up 10.1% year over year, and on a month over month basis, food was up 0.5%. Food that you cook at home was up 11.3%, and food that you cook at home on a month over month basis was up 0.4%. Oh my God, look at all these comments. $50, $27. Shatoya Davis is $78. Oh my God, Shatoya Davis. Solo Flowers is 26. Little Larry Sellers is 65. You guys are almost right on the money, man. $53 I paid. I paid $53 for 2 New York strip steaks, and I feel like there's actually a name for it, and I'm not saying it. But everybody, I think, knows what I'm talking about, right? It comes in the little styrofoam thing, and it has like 8 strips of chicken in it. Is that, and I'll preface this by saying this. I usually never buy food, right? Because living in New York, very, very seldom does anybody actually cook, right? I think anybody in their 20s, very seldom do we cook. But ever since I'm in Miami and I have a house, I'm like, all right, I'll try to cook. So I really have nothing to compare this to. But still, it's like I walk out with 3 things and I'm like, where the hell did I just spend $50 on? It's just ridiculous. J Peaks is $50 still cheaper than going out to eat? Oh, for sure. I mean, imagine if you ordered one New York strip steak at a restaurant, right? Think about going to Peter Luger's Steakhouse and ordering a New York strip steak. You're gonna get freaking, I'll bite my tongue on that one. Here we have another Lamborghini truck. A ton of these in Miami. Seems like these people are obsessed with them. Hey, Gary Carpenter. What's up, Gary? Good to see you. August Ice, welcome. Nina says 48 plus tax sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, look, things are expensive, guys. Things are expensive, and I think a lot of people, and this is sort of the last thing I'll say on the inflation subject, because we've sort of beat this like a dead horse, but it's important to talk about. What I've noticed is that every time you have one of these financial experts, hopefully we don't get nailed by this truck here. There's a rule: if you own a big G-Wagon, you have the right of way to blow red lights and run over pedestrians because you have a big ego. It's set in stone. I didn't make up the rule. It's a real rule. But anyway, if you turn on any of these main street or mainstream financial channels like Bloomberg, CNBC, here's one of the things that I've noticed when a lot of these analysts are talking about inflation. They're talking about prices from a standpoint, I don't want to use that term. I'm not going to use that term. I'm going to think of another term. Give me a minute. From a bubbled standpoint. They're working on Wall Street, they're a managing director, they're making $500K. So they think, oh, if I walk into Publix and I walk out spending $50, no big deal. If it costs $75 to fill up the gas tank, no big deal. They become detached from reality, right? And I didn't grow up in poverty. I grew up lower middle class. Money was always it was a struggle and a stress in the household, but it was never like we were starving, right? Just a regular middle class American kid. I think a lot of people who are talking about inflation on these financial channels, as they become more successful in their careers, they sort of forget what the average person is living through. So if I had a suggestion for like CNBC, Bloomberg, or any one of these other channels is, maybe just interview random people on the street, right? And have a better grasp and a concept for what real people are going through. Because some of these interviews I watch are just so laughable. They're like, oh yeah, I mean, and I think you guys sort of get the gist of what I'm trying to say. You guys see it too. You watch CNBC, you watch Bloomberg. Yo, Carson, what's up? Says Tom, it's been a while. Have been busy with school, hope all is going well. Hey Carson, thank you for joining. I hope your internship went well too. I think you were telling me you accepted a job offer. Hopefully you blew that out of the water, my friend. Focus on school, double down, triple down. I think this is a very unique opportunity for all these college students that are graduating into this economy. I think there's going to be unbelievable opportunities for you guys to absolutely freaking rip its face off and become unbelievable successes, okay? The big money is made during the downturns. It's not made when everybody's doing well. It's made during economic downturns, and if you could stay steadfast through the trials and tribulations of the market, and you could sit tight and ride it out, that's where what I like to call the thunder money is made. So I think anybody who's graduating college right now, I know everybody's scared and I know everybody's all frazzled, but you guys have an unbelievable opportunity, and I think you guys are going to kill it. Carson says, yes, super excited about it. Love that. Hey, Robert says, hey, Tom, I work in healthcare management. I've been seeing a vast quantity of price increases for OTC medications. From what I'm seeing, increases are in excess of 20%. Wow. Holy crap. Who said that again? Let me go back to that comment. Robert Hickman. Okay, now this is really strange. So Robert, fantastic comment. You actually get the comment of the night. Very helpful. But here's why I think that comment is strange. Dang it, I think I forgot it. Well, anyway, type exclamation point CPI in the chat and scroll down to the category where it says healthcare. That is a portion of the CPI. I think medical costs or medical care costs went down, but you're saying you're seeing an increase in, what is it, prescription drugs? Is that what you're saying? Man, it seems like it never ends for people, man. Terry, what's up? Good to see you. Hopefully you're enjoying Miami. I think Terry is relatively new to our Walks on Wall Street New York stream, so hopefully you're enjoying Miami, Florida too. Now, as you guys know, I just had a sinus infection and it was hell. You know, I'll put it bluntly. It took me like over 3 weeks to get over it. So I go to the doctor, I had a great experience, and they prescribed me, I think it was amoxicillin, some antibiotic, and then like a nasal steroid. I'm trying to think of what I paid for that. I think I paid $70. I think I paid $70 at CVS for the antibiotic and the nasal steroid. Now, I don't know if that's a good price. I don't know if it's a bad price. I don't know if I got ripped off, but that's, I think, what I paid. Maybe it was like $77. JPEG says, Tom, on another note, Disney is laying off 7,000 people, while Universal Orlando is hiring 2,500 people starting at $17 an hour. Yeah, it's a good point. So we sort of talked about that. Hold on, let me make sure I don't get knocked off by a car. I want to make sure we can continue Walks on Wall Street, not walks in roadkill. But, you know, here's the thing that I'll say about a lot of the layoffs, and I could speak about the tech layoffs because, as you guys know, my entire career was based in technology, in tech sales. And not to try to be like the super ultra annoying optimist, but these layoffs are normal in my view. And I know it sounds like Armageddon if you know, look at, you know, CNN and Fox News and Fox Business and all that, but we had a very unique macro event happen, right, in 2020, the Big C. And due to that, governments and central banks had to provide a ridiculous amount of monetary and fiscal stimulus, which created ridiculous amounts of demand. It ballooned liquidity, so there in turn, a lot of these companies had to hire like crazy. But ever since we started to try to reel in the economy, central banks raising interest rates, letting their balance sheets shrink. Obviously the balance sheets are made up of mortgage-backed securities and US Treasuries. You know, naturally what happens is companies look to trim the fat in their organizations. And I told everybody to do this as a little bit of an exercise, is go to sec.gov and type in the ticker symbol of any tech company you want. It could be Meta, it could be Alphabet, it could be Amazon, and do a 3-month look back. And you could actually chart this in Microsoft Excel. You could make your own financial model and model it out. I may actually post my models in the Discord chat that we have. But they added 50% of their employees in the last 2 years, right, to keep up with that crazy demand. So I think this is a normal, you know, back to normal, mean reversion style layoff environment, right? That's my opinion. That's what I think. Nina says Facebook VP announced layoffs too recently. Oh, weekly thousands are getting the boot. Now, and Disney actually posted a pretty good quarter. I thought the quarter was strong. Now, I think we may have done a breakdown already of Disney's earnings report. I was very impressed by the revenues in both the parks department and also the earnings. And demand is still pretty high, still pretty strong for the parks. Now, the only thing that is a big money loser, which we already know this, I mean, if you guys have been watching Walks Wall Street, you know that streaming is dead money, right? So if you think about the Disney Plus, I think they're doing a big reorganization and a big restructuring at Disney too. They're going to do some consolidation. ESPN is a big money loser as well. But with streaming, it's essentially a big subsidy model. A lot of these big tech companies are essentially paying for acquisition. They're buying customers. And again, that's fine, but that really only works in an environment of low rates, because you can continuously borrow money in perpetuity and service your existing debt with new money. So you can afford to, pay down 7 months of MRR to acquire customers from Hulu or Sling TV or whatever the streaming service may be. I'll give you guys one more view of Mary Brickell Village, and then we will head back to downtown Miami at the 200 Southeast Financial Center, where I will cut you guys loose. Hey, Paulos Adventures says Disney theme parks are a big moneymaker, huge moneymaker. 3T3 says Twitter was case in point on how to react. Others are following suit. 3T3 also makes another good point too. I mean, if you have, let's say, the CEO of Microsoft, the CEO of Alphabet saying, hey, Twitter had, thousands of employees. Elon Musk told 75% of them to take a walk. Twitter is still functioning normally. Well, what does that probably give some companies some ideas? Now, here's the thing. This was the restaurant I was recommending, by the way, the Argentine restaurant. This is an amazing place, highly, highly recommended. But a lot of people are like, hey, how come stocks are rallying off the back of news that these big tech companies are providing layoffs? Well, if you think about it, let's say if I have to pay a worker 150 grand or 200 grand a year, if I can lay off, 2,000 or 3,000 of them and the company still runs the same and revenues don't decline, well, that's going to hit bottom line and it's going to expand gross margins. So I think that's the bet. So I think every time you see these big headline layoffs, that's probably why you get a little bit of a bid in the stock. Not Shiloh says, Tom, Twitter is a bit janky for me now, but it may have always been some issues like that. The only problem I'm having with Twitter is the direct message feature. Sometimes it doesn't allow you to send photos in the direct message feature, and I think that's a bug. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to hit the like button on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams about 5 days per week between New York City and Miami, and discuss the financial markets while touring the cities. We'd love to have you guys here. Touring different places, thank you for joining us. Mecca says, Tom, are you going to stream downtown Miami as well? Well, I have to go back to the office, so I might as well take you guys with me. And if you want to connect on Twitter, you could follow @WalksWallStreet. That's where we communicate during the day, so to speak, at work. Randy D, I didn't hear about that. Now, the only thing I heard about that was, on Target's earnings report, ticker symbol TGT, and Walmart, ticker symbol WMT. In some of the locations where they have a lot of retail theft, they've announced that they're going to start closing some of the store locations. but I didn't hear about that happening in Miami. Now, I could be wrong. I know it's happening in New York, but I don't think it's happening here. I could be mistaken, but this trend started, and I remember I was on the earnings call for Rite Aid. The CEO comes on the call and says that shoplifting has gotten so out of hand at some of the stores in Manhattan that they're going to be forced to close and shutter some of the stores because there's just so much theft. Not to be a little bit of a downer here, but I've seen some pretty crazy stuff in New York. I mean, I've been online at drugstores in New York, ready to pay for my stuff, and I just watch people steal things, and then they go outside and they resell it to people, and they set up like these little makeshift tables. It's like the most bizarre thing ever. So they'll steal from the store and then walk outside, go down like 2 or 3 blocks and resell like all the soaps, the toothpaste. It's just like such a dystopian, bizarro thing. And it's not exclusive to New York. This happens everywhere. I'm sure it happens here in Miami too. But to your point, yeah, it's probably going to impact earnings, or probably already has. Touring different places. This time I've noticed prices coming down at grocery stores a little bit. Well, that's good. Which city are you in, touring different places? Richard Vogel's like, that's why everything is getting locked up. I've seen that too. If you try to go in and buy like soap or deodorant, they'll have it behind it's sort of like these plastic cases, and you have to click the customer service button in order to get your products out. I've seen that too. All right, I think we may make a right on South 8th Street so we can avoid some of the traffic. But this is the Brickell City Center. Hey, Bree Grams, what's up, Bree? This is Tom. Eggs are coming down here in Phoenix, Arizona. That's good. Now, the Super Bowl took place in Arizona, correct? And I think I saw something crazy online that there was over, what was the number? 200 private jets that flew in exclusively for the Super Bowl to Phoenix and then flew back out. There's the KPMG logo here. There's another one of those Lamborghini trucks. These people love that stuff down here for whatever reason. This one is in yellow. All right, I think we're gonna go for it. I think we're gonna cross. It says that we have the light. Why? He says I like the yellow. It is a kind of an interesting color, right? But it's probably a magnet for police officers to pull you over. Very flashy color. Now everybody, tomorrow night on the live stream, we're actually going to be doing a deep dive analysis into Airbnb's earnings report. So Airbnb, ticker symbol A, B, and B, reported earnings today, and it was a pretty good quarter looking at it at face value. But tonight, when I get home, which should be in about 40 minutes or so, I'm going to replay the earnings call. I'm going to take some notes. Airbnb is actually one of the stocks that I've been following. I'm not long Airbnb or anything, but as a customer or as an Airbnb host, I think it's appropriate to pay attention to the financials of the company. So we'll see. I think the stock is up 10% after hours off of a beat and raised quarter. So we'll definitely do a deep dive into that. Hey, Robert Parker. Hey, Robert. Good to see you. Says, hey, Tom, how are you? Have you chalked up any free frequent flyer miles from shuttling back and forth between New York and Miami? You know, I haven't, unfortunately, and I think now I should, since I'm going to be exclusively flying Delta Airlines. But I haven't. I have not, and I think that's a big miss on my point. Gabe says, Tom, Airbnb, Marriott, or Hilton stock for the next 10 years. I have no idea. These really aren't companies that I tend to be long, honestly. I mean, never say never, right? Never say never. But here's the thing, and we've talked about this too. If you look at a lot of the hotel stocks, such as Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, they're all trading very well, actually. And if you look at the jobs report that we just got out, right, the last non-farm payrolls, everybody was all giddy about the blowout number, 500,000 jobs. But as you guys know, we did a deep dive into this. The vast majority of the jobs that were created were in hospitality and leisure. Now, I'm not saying that's bad, I'm not, but I'm just pointing out the simple fact that those types of jobs are not the most lucrative and not the most high paying. But if we want to draw a correlation between, okay, well, why is Hyatt, ticker symbol H, trading near a 52-week high when there's all this talk about doom and gloom in a recession? Well, demand is definitely there, right? I mean, hospitality wouldn't be hiring like crazy, you know, to the tune of 180,000 jobs if there wasn't demand. So I think people want to travel. I think it's pent up from the big C. People were locked in their home for 2 years, and people want to travel. They want to go out. You know, a little bit of anecdotal data again from me. You know, I do rent out my place from time to time, and the demand is sick. The demand is insane. You put it up, and then automatically, within 24 hours, you get 3 or 4 people wanting to rent out the entire place for a month. So the demand is still there. I'm not saying it's going to stay there, but it seems as if people just want to travel. They want to get out. It's this pent-up demand for COVID. I'm not sure how long that trend is going to last. Who knows? Michael Joseph says Airbnb up 10% after hours. Hey, Bree Graham says good night, everybody. Sleep well. Hopefully you all crush it tomorrow. Thank you, Bree. I appreciate it. Yeah, Michael Joseph says Airbnb just reported their first ever profitable year. Well, that's music to my ears, my friend. Now, Airbnb is a recent IPO, and I think before we go, I want to recommend a very good book. The book is called Life Cycle Trade, and it's by Kathy Donnelly and Eve Bobach. And Eve Bobach, extremely smart woman, so is Kathy Donnelly. These are two freaking rock stars of Wall Street. It's all about IPOs. And I think we've talked about this before on the stream. We don't have time tonight, unfortunately, but read the book, get the book, okay? Read it, reread it a couple times, and we'll talk more about it. But I just don't have, I'm gonna go off on a tangent, and I just don't have any time, I gotta run. But read the Life Cycle Trade. It'll teach you all about IPOs, relative price action of initial public offerings, and here's a little tidbit, a little tip, okay? Now, as we walk over the bridge, so as we know, 2020 and 2021 were gangbuster, banner years for the Wall Street mega banks, right? Because if you think about a bulge bracket investment bank or even a boutique investment bank, they make a lot of money on fees, investment banking fees, equity underwriting fees, taking companies public. They make ridiculous amounts of money on M&A activity too. But think about initial public offering activity on a year-over-year basis from 2021 to 2022. It was down 99%, quite literally 99%. So there's an old saying on Wall Street that you should really, really pay close attention to the companies that are able to go public during economic downturns like the one we just had. Because anybody, guys, anybody could raise money when things are good, right? If you remember during the pandemic and even a little bit after, you turn on CNBC and every day it's this garbage company coming public, a new SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company, all this garbage. All of it, well, not all of it, a majority of it was just a way for banks and company insiders to make a ton of money on the cash out. We'll talk about that later, but there's actually some new IPOs that came out within the last year that I'm watching very, very closely. Because if you can actually get investors to pony up their money when times are horrible, like it was last year, you can really, really bet that that company is top quality. And we're going to talk about some right here live on Walks on Wall Street, not on tonight's stream, but maybe tomorrow. Hey, Sam is here. What's up, Sam? This is Hey Tom, good to see you. Welcome to Miami. Here's a view to the west. All right, my friends, I think we are almost back to where we started. I got to run up to the office, do some work for tomorrow. It's going to be a busy day for me, but it is Wednesday. It's already halfway through the week. We made it through the most important day, inflation day, CPI, coming in above expectations, but we did do a deep dive analysis of the good, the bad, and the ugly of the inflation report. We talked about what was really, really bad with it. That goes into CPI, and we talked about really the only category that is